It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Monday, June 24th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another week together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Provi in the media, the Sunday message word study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. Whew. All right, everyone, how are you doing? Yes, it is Monday, once again, another week with a new message, and I hope that all of us are working hard to put these words into action. Don't forget, this week we have Q&A Thursday. Already got questions coming in, so get those. If you have any questions or any comments or anything else, get them ready, send them to me whenever you can. And if you haven't yet, please leave a like and comment to build our community. I am just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive, so let's get up and support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title, there's two of them once again. It's God has been giving us everything He needed to give us at each time and fulfilling all the will. The second title is You will connect only if you know. You will open your eyes only if you take action. Okay? So yeah, once again, I am still with the Americans who are going to be leaving today, actually. It'll be my last day with them because a lot of them are leaving at a very late flight. I think like a 10:30 p.m. flight. So for several of them, I will still be hanging out with them today, and they will be gone by tonight. So yeah, that is the end of the American trip. Last day for them. And some of them leave early in the morning, and some of them are leaving actually like pre-dawn on Tuesday morning, right? But I won't see them at that time because they'll already be at the airport. But yeah, it is quite noisy right now, and it's mainly because I am at a shopping mall and doing this podcast because the American team has gone shopping, and I am at this little cafe called Basque Bear. It's like one of those cheap cafes where you can get a coffee for it's like $1.50 American kind of thing. So it's pretty cheap, but I can also record here. There is a little bit of, you can hear some noise in the background, like, because we're in public and stuff. But I don't know. For me, it takes maybe about a minute or two for my ears to adjust to like all the sounds that are going on around me. And then after a while, like you kind of forget that it's there, right? So I was, I'm here. Tell me, guys, if it really bothers you, because this is probably going to be the last one I'm doing at a shopping mall because when the Americans leave from the Tuesday podcast, I'll be doing. Actually, you know what? Tomorrow, Tuesday podcast might still be outdoors. It might. I'm not sure yet, but it might. But yeah, tell me what you guys think. Is it okay? Are you guys getting used to it? Does it really bother you or not? I'd love to know how much I'm bothering you by doing these podcasts in like shopping malls and stuff like that too. But yeah, four of the Americans are going straight to Korea. And they're going to be doing a tour over there. 3 of them are going back home to America. It's very interesting. They only came here for 8 days, right? 8 days, not a very long trip. But yeah, so 4 of them are heading over to Korea, going to Wonmyeongdong, having a tour over there. I feel really bad, especially for the one member who broke her foot. Like we got her, one of the churches lent us a wheelchair, so it's much, much easier for her now. But I'm hoping that they can get something else too in Korea to rent, because how do you walk around in Wonmyeongdong with a broken foot? They definitely need a wheelchair for that, for when they go over there too. So, yeah, it's been a long week, very, very long week. Oh, you know what the Americans said? The Americans love Malaysia, and not only do they love it, they said a lot of them want to come back. Or they want to come back and see more of Malaysia. I think some of them, because they hear from other members like all the different places they can go to, like Malacca and Sabah and Penang, Langkawi. Like there's a bunch of places. Like you can, even if you stayed 2 weeks in Malaysia, you still couldn't see everything. There's just so much stuff to see because it's a tropical place, and yeah, it's a tropical place. There's like resorts and islands, right? Resorts and islands. There's places to see there, and on top of it, there's just a lot of good food, and it's great culture. People are super kind here and stuff like that, also too. So I think there's a lot of people that would enjoy it. And of course, as I brag a little bit more about Malaysia, it's like in the center of Southeast Asia, which means you can drive to Singapore. You could drive to Thailand, but I would recommend you take a train instead. But you could take you could drive if you want to, but I would take a train up to Thailand, or short flights to Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia. Go to Bali. It's like in the center of everything. So I do recommend, if people do want to come, they can go there too. Like I'm even considering going to Langkawi because it's super cheap. To fly over there and to even rent a hotel. You can get a hotel for like less, I think a little bit over $10, like $11 a night in some places over there. So when I saw that, I was like, yeah, maybe I should just go there for 2 nights or something just to get away for a little bit. But I hope that many people who fly to Korea can drop by Malaysia while they're there. Of course, it's like a 6-hour flight, but it's not a very expensive ticket, and they can, get some time here to just relax. The churches are big enough here. Everyone speaks English, so I do say once again, as I boast about Malaysia and why I'm here, I think many people should come. And for me, I'm exhausted and happy at the same time because the Americans love Malaysia, right? So I just need to get some rest and then prepare myself for the next trip. Yeah, there's going to be another trip. I am going to take another trip. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly when, but I'm going to take another trip. But I know that there's more friends coming in July from other countries, like I think Taiwan and Australia. There'll be like some people visiting. So I will get some rest so we can take the tours for the next group of people also. What about you guys? What have you done this weekend? How was your weekend? Anything exciting? Anything exhausting? Anything sad? Anything that happened that you guys want to talk about? Go ahead, put in the comments below. Would love to hear what you guys think about that too. Oh, let me tell you about this crazy thing that's happened to me over the last week. Okay, it's probably over the last 2 weeks. Like, I don't know if this is a coincidence or not. Okay, but there is, I'm on Instagram, and I'm also on YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that, right? So, I make a bunch of friends in Malaysia, a bunch of friends like from different parts of the world. We do direct messaging just to, and it was kind of cool. Like one cool thing is when I went to the Apple store the other day. Saturday was like the opening of the first Apple store in Malaysia. And when I went there, just crowded and packed. But out of nowhere, there's this photographer, Malaysian, like a famous Malaysian photographer. And we follow each other. And on top of it, we DM once in a while because she knows, I post like Christian stuff and some of my YouTube videos onto my Instagram. And she's also a pastor's kid. And she, like, she's like, oh, let's go get a coffee sometime. I was like, sure. We've never gone to get a coffee. But at the Apple store, out of nowhere, she's like, hey. I was like, oh, hey, what are you doing here? Like, we can instantly recognize each other because, we just know each other from Instagram. Okay? But there's something else, all right? So this is a little bit different. There's this Instagram friend that I have. Never met them in my life, okay? And, we DM every once in a while, not a lot. But I usually just respond with emojis and stuff like that. And you know how I post on my Instagram stories where I'm having a coffee and I write the location of where I'm at, okay? For the last 2 weeks, I keep seeing this girl at the shops that I'm at. Like, we're talking 3 to 4 times all over KL. I'm like, I post it and then later I see this girl is there. And I'd be like, wait a second, I know that face. I know that face. But when, there's a big difference when you only know someone from pictures and then from and never met in real life. So it's almost like you're familiar with them, but you don't even know who they are because you never met them before. So this, I think last week, I saw this person like once or twice at the same cafe as me. And I would be like, who is this person? Do I know this? This person's so familiar. And later I would check the Instagram, and it was one of my Instagram friends. Wouldn't even say, like, they don't say hi to me. They're just there. And I saw them at 3 to 4 different cafes, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's her!" So I'm like, "How come? Like, they're not saying hi to me? I can barely recognize them. I would have to double check onto my my Instagram and stuff like that." But I was just like, "This girl has been at like 3 or 4 different cafes, and it." Okay, I'm not gonna say this is true, but it feels like I'm posting it and she's coming to those cafes because they're all over the place. And it's rare to see someone in 10 days seeing them 3 to 4 times, right? So it's, I had a realization from it. Not a realization of like deep spiritual things, but I had this interesting realization. My realization is about YouTube and social media. What's interesting is, it's such a great platform where we can meet people from all over the world. We connect with people that we normally couldn't connect with, right? So, that's a cool thing. And like I said, I saw that person at the Apple store, and we're able to say hi and like, oh, let's connect, let's, go grab a coffee, whatever it is, right? But one thing I kind of realize is when you're on social media or like YouTube and, you're kind of gaining a following, people are seeing you all the time. Like even on my Rebel Pastor, people are seeing me and me talking all the time. They see my posts, they see my pictures, and they see my life. They see my videos on YouTube. And I would say even for MSD, people are getting a glimpse of my life, right? And it's almost like I'm talking to you every morning and we're having a conversation, right? And what I feel, what I realize is sometimes when we are listening, like, on social media and on YouTube, people may think that they know me really well and that we're even friends. But the reality is that it's only a one-sided thing. Isn't that interesting? It's like I don't know them, but they're listening to me and talking to me all the time. So it's like they know, like it's kind of like they know me, but I don't know them. And I guess it's people come off with that feeling that they're getting to know me better and we're getting closer and closer. However, it's not a real regular relationship because it's so different because it's one way. Everyone sees me and hears my voice, but I don't see them and I don't know them either. I don't know. Does that make it kind of makes me realize, like, I'm at such a small level, but just from this one thing and seeing some of these things happen, I'm realizing, man, if you get famous, right? If you get famous, everyone thinks they know you. Everyone thinks they're close to you. Everyone will just come up to you and talk to you or follow you and do these different types of things. But in reality, it's not a real relationship because it's only one-sided, right? And I found that to be very, very eye-opening just from this one experience of seeing this person coming to, follow me to different cafes. And I'm just guessing because I find it very rare that in 10 days span, someone can come to the exact cafes as you, like 3 to 4 times and see them. I even went to this place that was like 40 minutes away on a mountain, and then I saw that person there. And I know it's them for sure because not only did I see their Instagram, but on their Instagram, I see them taking a video of the surroundings and I'm in the video. Do you know what I mean? So when I looked at that, I was just like, I don't know if it's scary. Is it scary? It's more of like, whoa, like my feeling more is this is how much people are looking for human connection. This is how much people want to be connected with others. I don't know. Do you guys think it's scary? I don't know if it's scary. I don't know. Do you guys think it's scary? Yeah, I'm not sure. But it's kind of like that. So that's something that I was looking at like, oh, that's so interesting how it's done this way, or how social media and YouTube works. And then you kind of see how you have a YouTube star or an Instagram star, whatever it is, and no one really knows them. It's just them posting their life and you know everything about them. It's not even everything. It's just you get to see what they see, right? So, yeah, I don't know. Tell me, is that weird? Is it scary? Is it like a stalker? I don't know. I'm not scared at all, to be honest. But it's just really interesting to see it at that stage and at that level. And think about this, guys. I'm only a YouTuber with like 5,500 subscribers. That's it. Which is a lot, right? Because Sansim said that, with these channels, you have all these people, that it means that I am running a 5,500 person church, which would be the largest church in all of Providence. But still, it's not really, really a big following at all. So that is something that I can't imagine what it's going to be like when it doubles to like 10,000. When I finally hit 10,000 subscribers, I think that's going to be more interesting. I really do. Like, I think it's not going to just be 2. It's going to probably be exponential how many people are going to kind of feel that way. And yeah, I am quite... it's quite interesting to see how YouTube and social media actually works. And I'm looking forward to the new experiences in the future too. Either way. So like I said, I'm spending a lot of time with the Americans, but I'm also spending time with some SS. Like they're like 2 nieces. They're not really nieces, but they call me uncle and stuff like that too. But they're 2 SS, and they're 2 daughters of a pastor over here. And this week, because the pastor was taking the Americans on a tour, I needed to pick up his daughters at school, which was kind of cool. It was an experience because I'm like, whoa, this is what parents do every day. Because I went to one of the daughters' schools. It's like a high school. Oh my goodness. We're talking like when the bell rings and all the kids come out, we're talking like, when you see ants just flooding out of an anthill, and they're all in sync and in line. They're all wearing the same clothes. And it was quite funny because I was like, wow, so this is what parents do to pick up their children. And they do this and it's so packed. It's so crazy. I got there even like 30 minutes early, and there's already a lineup of cars that I was like, okay, so I shouldn't, I got to find a new place to park. And picking them up from school, it was just interesting. Picking your imagine picking up your daughters from school in high school. That is so interesting to me. I was like, so this is what parents do. And much more respect to them also. But I picked up the 2 girls from their high schools, and they go to different high schools too. One is an international school, but we've spent about a good 3 hours, and once again, just in conversation and talking to them. Like, remember they're 14 and 16. It's really eye-opening because it's so different from when I was growing up. The conversations and topics they have, it's because the world has changed so much. It's just different questions, different thoughts. For instance, like one of the girls are just coming to me and just saying that, like, I'd pick them up from school, and there was someone who would actually, some guy would be like, oh, hey, blah, 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 and I would see them, and then, I would drive them off. And what was so interesting is, like, they'd be telling me, like, oh, yeah, that guy is gay. I'm like, oh, okay. And then they're like, yeah. And we would, then the conversation would be in LGBTQ, right? It's just interesting because that's what they're experiencing right now. And for those of you guys who don't know me, I'm Generation X. I'm born in the 70s, and there was no LGBTQ. Like, almost zero. We only suspected some people to be that. Only suspected, that's it. But we, so rare. But now, in America, they said when it comes to Gen Z, 1 in 4 are part of the LGBTQ community. 1 in 4, guys, 25%, which is ridiculous. I can't believe I jumped this high, but that's what they're dealing with. And that's why our conversations would go towards that. Because she'd say, oh, he's gay. And then we just talk about it, and they would ask me questions. And in my head, I'm thinking to myself as like, this is stuff that I never talked about. And it almost made me a little bit scared, like, should we be talking about this? But then I realized this is what they're dealing with at their age. It's just different from my generation. And it's like, for me, it feels like they're growing up much faster because they're dealing with these more controversial or harder topics that I would never deal with at 14 and 16. Or maybe it's different. I don't know. Do you guys feel the same thing? It almost feels like these kids are growing up much quicker than we did. Because right after LGBT, we talked about a lot of different subjects, but we would also be talking, like they would talk to me, 14 and 16, they talked to me about the blessing, right? Like, tell me that's interesting. I would never think about that, but of course I wasn't born in Providence, which means that they've heard of it. They know that their parents went through it, right? And the question was this. Like, tell me this is interesting. They said, is it possible for you to get matched, but then later realize it's the wrong match? You know what I mean? Like, that, I'm like, wow, that's so, it's like, and, like, they'll just tell me what they notice. Like, they see it. And that's why when they see it, they notice it, and they understand it. You know what I mean? Which means this. They see a lot more, or they see a lot more than we think. When we try to hide things from people, or we maybe say, oh, it's too sensitive of a topic or whatever it is. It's interesting, but we don't realize it. We think that these kids are too young, but they see it. They really see it. They'll tell me straight out. It's like, oh, yeah, guess what? After you have the blessing and then they announce the new couples and stuff, I know they do that, right? They announce new couples. However, they would notice something like, oh, they announced this couple, but then later they're not together, right? So they'll be asking questions about that. Why? It's because that's what they notice. That's what they see. And it's not, these kids are smart. These kids are smart. They see what's going on. They know exactly what's going on. And I think we become a little bit naive to this young generation, thinking that they don't notice or they don't know anything. Do you know what I mean? It was 3 hours of this. And, it was basically 3 hours eating like really delicious desserts and chatting. And then, at one point I thought to myself, is like, are they opening up to me because I'm like such a cool uncle? Or is it because we're eating really, really good food? So I at one point I began to doubt my uncle powers for a bit, but I realized it's probably a bit of both, right? But it was interesting and fun. Very, very interesting and fun to pick up these girls from their schools, just to be sitting in front of the schools with all the other fathers, with all the other parents. Like when I was picking them up from school, in the school area, there's like these little mom and pop shops. Like, they're basically their houses, and they open up a little like place where you can buy drinks and stuff. And I would just go sit there with the aunties and uncles, and we just talk, right? About like, we're talking about like, oh, who are you picking up? I was like, oh, I'm picking up my nieces. Oh, such a good uncle, yada, yada, yada. Because they're thinking I look too young or whatever it is, right? But, it's just fun, right? And, at one point I was sitting there like, okay, should I go out and pick her up so she sees where I am, or is she going to get too embarrassed by me in front of her friends, kind of thing? So, I had to be the one that had to kind of start to think to myself, I need to be a little bit more extra cool. So, I'd wear my hat backwards, put on sunglasses, so it's not like, they can say, oh, he's my cool uncle. But it was very interesting. Oh, but I'm going to tell you one thing that I'm very, very, that's very interesting. Being with these SS, and one of the conversations we did start to have was they started asking me questions about 30 lessons and how to teach it and how to lecture. And I was so happy that at 14 and 16, they're learning, or they're wanting to, or they're being asked, and they're okay with going to lecture like Milky Ways. Right? And there's these kids, SS, that are contributing to the next generation. And, for me, I'm someone who loves Milky Way. Milky Way is like my favorite, right? Just playing with them, having fun. And, I'm more into Milky Way than anything else. And, you could just play with them. They're so cute. They're so joyful and honest. And, I thought to myself, is like, it's great to be with Milky Way. However, spending time with SS is very interesting because you get to see into what's in their thoughts, the questions that they ask, the things that they're able to understand. And you know, I I'm starting to warm up to SS. I really am, right? And yeah, I really like because they have a much higher understanding of the word. So even though on Friday, like there's the Friday prayer night and stuff, there's people visiting from America. They only have a certain amount of time, so we're out in the food streets and stuff during the Friday, and they're like, "Hey, how come you're not listening to the word?" and stuff like that. And it's kind of funny, but it's kind of cool that they have that attitude of, it's cute and inspiring at the same time. They're learning properly, and they're listening to the word when they should be, right? But I was thinking after spending more time with SS, it's like, man, it's actually very rewarding to have some role in shaping the future of Providence. And it feels like it's such a meaningful thing, right? Something that we should be thinking about and thinking about very carefully. Like for me, like one thing that I will say is making people lecture. I don't think it's a good idea to make people lecture, even if it's going to be for Milky Way. I don't think it's a good idea to make SS lecture unless there is good training, because they can get traumatized. When you're really, really young and you have a bad experience in lecturing, it can ruin their perception about lecturing, and it can make them not want to lecture again. So I was thinking to myself, like, man, it's not enough for us to just say, hey, SS, go lecture. It's so much more important to sit down with them, because remember I was telling you before, I was doing lecture training with a campus member. They would be lecturing that week, and I would sit down with them at the beginning of the week or in the middle of the week to go over the lecture. I would meet them again, right? To go how to do a segue, how to go from this point to this, like kind of lecture, helping them to understand how to lecture better, right? And I think the training becomes that important from such a young age. So I thought to myself, as like campus and SS, right? I know it's good to give them responsibility and giving them missions, but I would say what would be even more important is don't just give them a mission, don't just give them responsibility, but we really need to train them well on how to do it properly, because they're kids. If you just tell them to do something and you don't help them out, you just give them the materials, I don't think that's good enough. I think you're doing a disservice, in my humble opinion, because they're young, they don't know what to do, they've never lectured before, they never even put a lecture together. But if we were to do it where we just tell them, hey, do this, and then just leave them by themselves, I think that's a disservice, and we're not training and we're not raising the next generation well. That's my personal opinion, my humble opinion, right? And don't you think that's kind of more than reasonable? Like, do you think that's the right decision to say, okay, hey, you go lecture them, but I don't know how to. Oh, here, let me give you all the material you need to lecture, and boom, you're done, and you never talk to them again. You know what I mean? I think that's a disservice. I think it's something that's not a very good way of training and handling this younger generation. That's what I think, right? We need to handle them well. We need to make sure that they are. We need to make sure that they are trained and raised really well. Because if we don't, then we are in danger of giving people really like bad experience or even trauma that they stop lecturing or don't want to do it anymore. So I would say it's something that we would have to think carefully about before we give any young person any mission. Is we need to teach them how to do it properly. It's not someone to tell them what to do, but to guide them in their lecturing and let them try it out. Yeah. But yeah, for me, here's something else I realized being an uncle. I realized I'm just an uncle. I'm just an uncle, which is a blessing, because it's so different than a parent. Uncles come at special times, and I go when I want. It's not something I have to do every day. Because it's really interesting how beneficial the uncle role is. I can pop in and out of these kids' life whenever I feel like it. But parents, they're going to be there, and they're going to do things regardless of what they're going through or feeling every day. So, like, man, I would say just from my experiences from the last couple of weeks, big love and respect to all the parents out there that are doing it each and every day. And it really gives me a deeper appreciation and love for the blessed families, for the JS, all parents out there, for my parents too. And, if you take it one step further, think about this. It's already so hard for a parent to raise a child. And then what would you think of a parent who has like 3 or 4 children? You'd be like, oh my gosh, they're so amazing. They're so great, right? Imagine if they had someone had 3 to 4 children. I know some families here that have 4 children in Providence here, right? It's so impressive and so amazing, right? But imagine, look at from God's point of view, he has to manage 8 billion people and take care of all of them, even though everyone is so different from each other too, right? And when I look at children and just seeing the complexity and experiencing the complexity of having just 2 children and how they interact with each other, how they fight, how they argue, how they make, it's incredible. Isn't it? Just 2 children is really, really difficult. But imagine God running the entire world. Can you imagine that? I don't think there's anyone more amazing than God. There can't be. And if you think about it too, when it comes to our relationship with God, if you think about the things we complain about, we're literally like little children fighting with each other. Haven't you guys heard this before, or maybe thought this? Hey, how come they get blessed and I don't? How come you love them more than you love me? Why do you treat them better than you treat me? Why do you treat me that way? Oh God, why aren't you here? Like, when we think about the things we complain to God about, we actually sound like a bunch of children. It's like what children say to their parents. Isn't it true? There's so many things we complain and grumble about, but when you look at what we're going through, it's exactly like these children, what they say to their parents. But here's God managing 8 billion. It's impossible. And we're always comparing. We're always saying, why did they get this? Why did they get that? And we don't even know anything about their lives, and yet we still complain about it. We don't know how much they worked hard. We don't know what their generational blessings are, and yet we still complain about it, right? So we gotta give so much thanksgiving and love to God, the Holy Spirit, for the Holy Son and Jesus taking care of us. It's crazy, guys. It really is. And that's something that I realized just kind of doing this role of an uncle, realizing how hard it is to be a parent, and then realizing how great it is to be God. How great God truly is. So yeah, that's kind of the thoughts that I've been going through, and just spending my time here. Tomorrow's Tuesday podcast will be the last podcast where the Americans are there. So yeah, I'll probably have some more realizations after this trip too. All right. So either way, today we do have the Sunday Message Word Study right after this in segment number 2. But of course, before we get into it, let's get into the first music break of the day.
Hurting, there's nothing that's quite worth it. So you call for help again.
let's get into today's word study. And of course, every single Monday, we have the Sunday message word study. You know what I didn't notice? I didn't realize there was all this music in the background. Isn't there? Like, I didn't even notice it because, well, part of it is because I have my noise cancellation on, so I can't really hear what's going on. But when I re-listened to it, I was like, wait a second, where is this music coming from? But there is some music in the background, so I apologize for the music in the background. I am in a shopping mall at the moment recording this podcast. I hope that today will be the last day, but it's possible I will be recording outdoors somewhere else tomorrow too. Okay, so let's get into the Sunday message word study. The title is God has been giving us everything He needed to give us at each time and fulfilling all the will. And the second title is You will connect only if you know. You will open your eyes only if you take action, right? And I think one of the big points that Sunsim is bringing up a lot over the past couple of weeks is think about what God and the Holy Trinity has done for you in the past. Realize and then be grateful and thankful. Take action and love Him, which means it's really about, hey, if we realize and understand, if we think about all the things God has done for us, then we'll realize He'll do it for us again today too, right? So I hope that's something that all of us can keep in mind, right? So let's get into today's Sunday message word study, okay? So when we, going on with the same theme of looking at the things that God has done in the past for us, we need to recall those things constantly, because the moment you forget is the moment you become ungrateful because you think that God did nothing for you. But if you keep remembering the things that God has done for you, what does that mean? It means that you're like, oh, this is what God did for me. Oh, God loves me. God did this. God did that, right? And when you realize how much God has really done for you, this is when you realize all the more that, yeah, and God's going to do even more for you now, even today, right? And that's something that I think we cannot forget. Now, what happens in this week's message is it adds a little bit more. What's it adding? It's adding, not only has God done for you in the past, will do things in the present and will do things in the future, but the whole reason He's doing these things is to carry out His will and His purpose, right? So all the things God is doing, He's doing it for a reason. He's not doing it just for the sake of, you know what, I'm just going to do this for you. No, it has to fulfill the will. It has to fulfill the purpose that God has in mind, right? And we need to realize that there are things that God is going to fulfill now, things that we're going to be given now, blessings we're given now. But on top of that, we also have to realize that there are things that God is preparing to do for us right now to give to us in the future too. There's always something being done by God, right? Now, I think that is so incredible and impressive. God is not just giving you things from the past, but because of what we're doing right now, God is preparing things so that we'll receive them in the future, right? So one of the great examples Sunsim gave is, how did Sunsim move to Wonwingdong? It happened at his grandfather's time, who was living in Gongju, which is my mother's side's hometown, from Gongju, and they moved into Wonwingdong, and that was all for God's will, right? And as Sunsim, said the verse in Psalms 39, verse 20, it's like, if we don't realize, we just become like animals. And I think that's one thing that we have to really make sure we don't reach, is that level of, we don't drop down to the level of an animal. We have to realize, we really have to realize, why did God do this? Why is God doing this right now? And I think there are times where we don't really realize exactly why God is doing it. However, it's not so much just about realizing why God has done it. Well, it's not realizing if we can't realize why God is doing something, and the thing we have to at least have in our hearts and our minds is that, okay, we don't know that why God is doing this. However, we do know that God has always done things for us in the past. God has always been taking care of us. God has always been fulfilling the will. That's a thing that we do need to recognize. And once we remember that and recognize it, then we don't really need to freak out oh my gosh, what's happening right now? It's more of, okay, something's happening right now. I don't know what it is yet, but God has always taken care of me now. He's going to take care of me in the future too. And I think that's something that we have to realize all the more. Right? It's just like, God is the great example that Sunseem used was children don't know what the parents do for them until they grow up, right? But even though the children don't know what the parents are doing for them, the parents just take care of them until they grow up because they know that once they grow up, right, the children will realize when they become parents, right? The children, and in that odd case when even children fail to realize even when they grow up, they still do the same things for us. And this is what God is waiting for us too. There are many things we don't realize, but God waits for us to mature so that we'll realize in the future. And I think part of your maturation process is for us to really think about, okay, am I really maturing? Is when you start to realize more of, oh, God did this. Oh, wow, God prepared this. Oh, God is doing this. And I think that's something we have to understand very carefully, is that God is doing something. And not only is he doing it, we need to be the ones that realize it. And when we realize, part of that is part of our maturing process. Right? And I hope that's something that we can realize all the more. Because remember in the message is talking about the thousands of different types of graces that God grants. And the funniest one is, even when they pick up a rock and hit you in the head, it's out of love. It's grace, right? And we're like, what? I was like, yeah. If we get hit in the head, guys, it's out of grace. It's to bring us to our senses, right? It really is. And I think that's something where we have to recognize when something happens, what have we been saved from? Right? Don't just sit there and think that nothing happened, but think about to yourself, okay, so something happened, and what might have happened if this didn't happen? Where might have I gone? Right? Like one time I was in Germany, and for some reason, me and my friends, German members, we stopped at a rest area, and we're eating, and then we're playing cards, and we ended up playing cards for like 2 hours at the rest area. But at that time, it was raining like crazy. And when it was raining like crazy, we're like, okay, what's going on? And then after we got out 2 hours later, as we're driving, we see that they just finished up, the police just finished up cleaning up like a 10-car, 20-car wreck. And we were so thankful because we're like, man, if we didn't stay there to play cards, we would have been in that 10, 20-car pileup, or maybe we wouldn't be in the accident, or at least we'll be there for hours, right? Just waiting for these cars to clear, kind of thing, right? So, that's part of the grace that God gives to us, but we have to realize it. If we don't realize it, we're just beasts, right? So, the grace that we receive is something that we need at that time, right? For some people, they need that grace of love. For some people, they need to be saved. For some people, they need to be healed. For some people, or just in general, we need to solve these problems, right? So, I think it's very interesting that even Daniel, remember Sunsi was in Daniel chapter 10, verse 12. And it's really, I thought it was inspiring because here is God acknowledging that Daniel wants to realize. He's trying to understand what's happening in his life, right? And I think that's important for us too, is we can't just be the way we are. We have to understand clearly and deeply what is going on. So, I think what's incredible to me is, because God is so almighty and great and he's so all-powerful, it's so crazy how he can fulfill all the promises for 8 billion people, remember all these things and get them fulfilled. Like that for me is incredible, because everyone wants different things. Everyone's thinking different things. And then on top of that, God knows how great each person is, or not great, that how different people's hearts are, but he's also thinking about what's really, really needed from person to person, right? He's really thinking about that. And I think that's something that we have to realize, because many times, God gives us something, we don't realize it, even though we got it, and we don't even use it, or we complain to God, but God still considers that he still gave it to us, because it's not that he didn't give it, it's we failed to realize. We failed to do our responsibility, and that's the bigger problem, right? So, the biggest example would be Israel not receiving Jesus, right? So when you think about that, I thought that was quite powerful to hear that, right? And that point that I think all of us can relate to is some people ask for this, but instead God gives you that. However, what God gives you is better, but we still complain because we didn't get what we really wanted. And what God gave to us, God gave us what is more ideal. And that's why the biggest thing that we have to understand is we have to realize how God works. And this is why the 30 lessons, the word is so big. It's so crazy how big and important it is. And I think that's something that we have to take into consideration, right? So big question that comes up in the message is how do we connect with God? And there was like 7 or 8 things that they said. Number 1 is you need to take the actions that are worthy in God's eyes, and then you'll connect to God. There's one. Your shimjang must fit. We heard that message about a month ago. There is a will, and that's why we connect. If we accept the word as truth, this is one of the easier ones. We connect with God because we accept the words we hear as truth. We connect with God when we obey. We connect with God when we pray sincerely. We connect with God when we receive a mission. And we connect with God when we love. And when you look at all these things, it's really, really powerful. It's really powerful. And I think that when you look at those 7, 8 things that I just mentioned, that the word mentioned, we're going to realize that we are already connecting to God in many ways. We may not do it in one way, but there's like 7 other ways to do it. So I hope that you guys can take a look at those. How many of them were there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 of them, right? I hope that you guys can look at all 8 of those things and see that God is, you are connecting with God, you just don't know it, right? And it's kind of like this week's message. Sometimes you just don't realize it, but you are. And God considers you already connected, but you fail to do your responsibility kind of thing, right? So, it was a really powerful message, especially the part that really got to me was, even when the old time period rebels, God still does what he needs to do. He can't wait for them to realize he's got to do what he needs to do, right? History is going to be carried out no matter what, even in tribulation, right? So we have to understand that if you think about it, is there anyone that is so big to this history that if we leave, like the whole history shatters? There's only one person. Because if you think about what happened in 2023, we would think to ourselves that someone like that leaving would make a huge shakeup in history. And the answer is it didn't make as big of a hit as we thought it would, right? It didn't. It's history moves forward no matter what. And this history is going to be big. And if you think about this, it's not a sad thing. That's how big this history is regardless if each of us as individuals stay or not. History is going to grow, regardless. The question is, are you going to be a part of it or not? Right? That's the big thing. Will you be part of this history or not? And I hope that we can realize and recognize, this might make you feel small, but no, this should show you how great this history is. Because we've seen so many people leave and we think to ourselves, oh, what's going to happen? And the answer is history moves forward. It does. We just need to make ourselves a great part of this history. That's what we need to do, right? And, what Sunseem said is, when you think only at a small level, like only at a small will, at your personal level, nothing happens. It's not that great, right? The man of mission sees. Why does the man of mission see clearer than us? Because he sees the whole. He doesn't look at just himself. He sees the whole picture, right? And he sees what God has done for the entire time period, right? So we have to be the ones that see the whole. Like, remember the video that Sunseem had where he didn't know that the mission masterpiece rock was actually an eagle, but God sees it at the big picture, and that's why he's able to teach, right? So we have to be those that understand is when we start to think too small, we see small and we don't see the full picture, right? We don't see how God is really developing things. I thought it was quite interesting when Sunseem admitted that, he's like, I didn't know. I kind of complained. I thought we were just in the Wonmyeong area because we couldn't afford. There's just no other choice. There's no water here. And Sunseem was talking about his real attitude. Like, I thought it wasn't such a great place, and we have no other choice. There's not even water, right? But there's just no choice to develop it here. but it was God's predestination to do it in Mormondong, and it was the absolute will. It's just that Sunsim didn't know. He didn't see the full picture until later, right? So I hope that we'll realize more. We'll realize more deeply. And especially one of the last things that God said was, you have to know, why did this kind of tribulation, suffering, and injustice happen in this time period? If you don't know, you need only to be thankful, pray, asking to always live according to God's will and live loving Him. So the big question I give to you guys is, why did this kind of tribulation, suffering, and injustice happen in this time period? What does it mean, right? And I think that's something that we can discuss further on in this week too, as maybe even a Q&A question. All right? Either way, that is the Sunday message word study. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you have any questions or not, just let me know. I would love to answer it for Q&A or for tomorrow's podcast too. Okay? So there it is, guys. That is today's Sunday message word study. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys again. See you guys. What are you talking about? We have Provi in the media next, right? So let's get into the last music break of the day.
2023. We've all come a long way. Many different stories, but we're all on the same journey. Many, many ups and downs, but we're all still around. Many, many, many lessons, but each one came with a blessing. Let's not forget for where we come from when we make this confession. Some people just want to watch the world burn. As for you and I, let's set ourselves on fire, shine a light so bright that will make the people say, burning life, Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long, you might lose your sight. Some people gunning for our downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life. Who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones. We're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die, till they see the light, make it bright, till we hear the people say, born sinner, never could be ill. I know I'm back from the dead, yeah, the Lord is my healer. I took the red pill, that's why I call him teacher. When you learn about the spirit, oh, there ain't nothing realer. The one you learn from determines your entire destiny. Learn from the one who taught about eternity. Cloud craving, paper chasing, the joy is only temporary. I don't wanna do the same thing, so I hard to count the vanity. I keep my eyes on the prize, I'll never sell my soul to the devil in disguise. With both hands on each side, I'm holding on to dear life. I keep my guard up, never back down. When it goes down, I call on the Christ. Spiritual battle, answer the call. It's Call of Duty, modern warfare, put the armor of God. They're fighting Lucy with a rock, I got atomic bombs. Love the Lord your God and all your brothers once your demons fall. Don't be deceived, know who the ops is. Keep the unity and peace, go far way across this. Came to preach the word of God like I'm born in Tarsus. Here to testify the things I've seen on road to Damascus. He's the real deal, the real thing. Be glad you heard the King's speech. Blessed are those who reach the end and get to hear the Lord speak. GODs, POC, we fulfilled everything. Burning life, kerosene, burning life, legacy.
You will never see me stop in the future. The life that fulfills God's will continue. Everyone thinks I'm unfortunate because I go through suffering. But inside of me it's different. Because I walk the path of eternal life.
Burning life, Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long, you might lose your sight. Some people gunning for our downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life, who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die, till they see the light, make it bright, till we hear the people say,
like Mary poured out her perfume on Jesus' feet, I must pour out my heart, mind, and love on the one who saved me.
Okay, so let's get into today's final segment, which is Provi in the media. As you can tell now, the sound is a lot better because I've already reached home and I am no longer in the shopping mall. We had a really good time. It's Sunday night over here, but we had a really, really good time meeting with some other BF. And like all the kids came together, and I think there was like 7 or 8 second gen kids, both in Malaysia and America, and they're just gathering. We're playing games and stuff like that, and that was super fun. But I really, really enjoyed that. I didn't play any games because I would completely destroy everyone in all of them. and I'm kind of getting a little bit sick, I think. But yeah, it's a lot of energy that was used during that time too. But very grateful and thankful. So let's get into today's final segment, which is Provi in the media. And there's one big article that did come out, and it's about Sunstein. It's from Break News Media, and it says Sunstein is a victim of fake news. Research paper presented by CESNUR, a religious society. So this is very, very cool. There is a doctor named Dr. Jin Myung Lee, and he published a paper that concluded that the documentary I Am God from Netflix was fake news. So let's get into this. It says Netflix's a program, I Am God, which is about Sunstein and CGM, produced a global sensation. Even in religious studies, errors in this program were pointed out. So, at a seminar held at the Center for Studies of New Religions, which is CESNUR, one of the world's leading religious academic societies, a research paper was presented pointing out the unfairness and errors in the Netflix's I Am God. Dr. Jin Myung Lee, who presented the paper, criticized the unfairness and errors in the contents of the CGM, aka JMS, aired on Netflix's I Am God at the Center for Studies of New Religions. It was a conference held in Bordeaux, France on June 14th, and he published a research paper on the topic pointing out the harmful effects of fake news. So the topic of the thesis presented by Dr. Jin Myung Lee is Fake News, Court Trials, and the Role of Media, the Case of Providence Church in Netflix's I Am God. Now, in this paper, the doctor concluded that I Am God is fake news. The reason is, if you analyze what was announced through the broadcast, the stitching, editing, and intentional distortion are serious. So the broadcast content is concluded in the wrong direction. So in this paper, traces of manipulation and editing of the program were presented. So some of the things that were presented, I'm going to just go over a couple of them. One of the contents in which in the Netflix audio that was used, the one that was already checked once to be deemed fake, but is being checked by the courts now. This audio file. So in the audio file, there was a point when a man answered yes, but in Netflix, the sound of the man's answer was deleted, and the woman's moan was added. And in the Netflix file, there was a sentence that supposedly Sunstein said, but while Sunstein is saying it at the exact same time, the sound of another man breathing can be heard twice in succession. So that doesn't make any sense that it's only supposed to be the two of them together. But as they're analyzing the file, as Sunstein speaks, there's a man breathing twice in the background. So there's a third person, right? This means a third person exists at the scene of sexual violence, but that doesn't conform to common sense, right? So Dr. Jin Myung Lee, who presented the paper, pointed out the problem of the spread of incorrect articles in the media, and he said it not only determines the life and death of an individual, but also exerts a very great influence on society as a whole. The damage suffered by individuals and organizations through incorrect media articles is difficult to restore to its original state, and only incorrect articles remain in the public's memory, and correctly corrected facts are buried, he said. The production and dissemination of fake news has a negative impact on society as a whole, and considering the impact it will have, the media must abandon the practice of provocative reporting and fulfill its social responsibility with the right spirit of pursuing only the truth, he emphasized, right? So it's very, very interesting that we, here is the Center for Studies of New Religions, and this is at a seminar in Bordeaux, France this year, and guess who they use as the example? It's the Netflix I Am God documentary, seeing it as absolute fake news. So when you see this is great news that this is actually coming out in research too. Right? And there's papers being published that it is fake, it is edited and distorted in the wrong way. So this is great news for us that we can see these types of things coming out, published papers. And this is not just any society. This is the Center for Studies of New Religions. And this is legit. So I hope that this gives us a little bit of more hope also to pray even better, as we only have a few more, maybe 10 days left. Maybe more than 10 days, We have about 2 weeks left before the 70-day prayer condition is done. So I hope that this will give you more strength and power, and that we'll be able to pray even better in the future. Okay? So there it is, guys. That is today's Provi in the News. Just one small article, but a very, very good one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. All right? So that means I hope that everyone has an amazing and awesome Monday. Hope you guys start your week really well with the Lord. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this.